So I haven't had the opportunity to watch the BBC documentary on the individual on the screen, but I have seen countless similar behavior around this type of news happen a lot in boxing, and I'll explain it. And remember a time where every single boxing fan cared about guys being true to the sport and not taking performance enhancing drugs, um, administering themselves to testing, even though the prototypical stance before was, well, the commission testing is enough. But then you started to see, I'm gonna be very honest, you started to see a couple of brothers test positive, and then suddenly you saw journalists say, well, the commission testing wasn't enough. So then you had all these people saying, well, if they don't want to test, then they shouldn't be allowed to fight, or why don't you want to test? If you prove that you're clean, you should be getting yourself tested. But then when you saw the massive case of non-black fighters testing positive, as of 2015 and later on, the argument went from whoa, 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 we need to do our homework on the level of amount of PEDs that were within the test, something that didn't apply to the brothers. But all of a sudden, you are a different shade, and all of a sudden, people start asking, like, what's the picogram? What's the amount? Is it an amount that is it enough in the amount? Questions that we never asked prior. Fast forward a little bit of time, and then you have situations in which, like this, which is kind of very, very interesting. And actually, I'll touch on one previously. You remember how much the media made such a massive big deal about the Golden Boy and Top Rank lawsuits against Al Heyman. Everybody was just like, "Oh, this is it. This is going to be the end," even though a lot of the lawsuits were very frivolous. In fact, the lawsuit ended up going, instead of really exposing Heyman, it ended up exposing Golden Boy. And for Top Rank, they got their lawsuit thrown out, and they had to reword their lawsuit because it went from them saying that PBC was trying to corner the market, but they essentially reworked their lawsuit to say, hey, we want to be able to put shows on these channels as well. And then ultimately, that's what allowed them to get into the ESPN deal. The same deal that they have as ESPN is essentially the same deal that Heyman got at ESPN, which is kind of funny when you think about it. Now you're seeing this idea about how we've always had, stories about how the mafia ran boxing, 100 years ago, and how the massive decline of the mafia has been able to allow boxing to thrive and to be able to be the sport that it is today. And for many people, if you were to tell people that in 2014 that Al Heyman had a mob and he was using a mob to influence boxing, every journalist would have ran with it. Every journalist would have printed out their columns. They would have sent the emails of what they wrote, and we would have known. However, when it happens to be MTK Global, a very successful management company in the UK that has represented a large base of UK fighters, many fighters who work with different promoters, why is this not getting the same attention? Because it's a very detailed audit trail of shit that's fucked up. Why are we not seeing the same journalists who were as loud in these previous situations? Why are they not as loud here? Specific question that I had. And I made like my video talking about Wilder versus Breland. Why do I feel like that situation is very convenient for this? And this is not for me to just play like connecting the dots or do I think it's a coincidence. But if Mark Breland felt the way that he felt, why did you wait till now to speak? I'm not saying that you're wrong for speaking how you want to speak, but why now of all times? Why not speak roughly after the fight or after you got fired? Why would you wait until some situation like this happened and you do it on a radio show hosted by a UK broadcaster? It's very, very suspicious.